Hello guys and welcome to a new Wargame video today by me, Vulcan. Today I have for you a 4 versus 4 on floods. And some of you may have already seen this game because if you have noticed, I am playing with Raptor. This is ICBM Raptor 2 on YouTube. Make sure you check out his channel link in the description. He did make his own live commentary on this game and that should be on his channel right now. So make sure you go check that out. That will be from his perspective of this battle. We're also playing with 2 other members of the RwKsktYA, which is a community owned by Raptor. And they are Spider and Fish. And we're playing against Cremator, Pater Salad, Dalsasoa and Vindicatus. Now, this is a really interesting game, something that I'm going to show from the majority of my point of view, because it's very much based on a request that I got from somebody in the comments. Somebody asked to see an amphibious deck, amphibious in that I would assault from the sea, or in this case, a lake. And it's something that I wanted to do, so I decided to do so, and I'm using a US Marine deck. So let's have a look at my unit composition. I have 4 LVTP 7A1s, 2 of them have US Marines, and 2 of them have small squads. Small squads are very powerful at the moment. Extremely good at taking out medium, light armor, no problem. Heavy armor might take a few more hits, and generally the small squads, because they're only 5-mans, can get taken out by heavier tanks quite easily. But if you have enough of them, then generally you're going to be doing pretty well, because they can deal a lot of damage versus enemy light armor. Then we have 2 M48A3 Chaparrals. These are amphibious, so they can cover my ground forces while they are crossing the water. Then I have an M727 Skyhawk Pip 3, and this is intended to sit in this tree line here and cover with radar missiles over this water in case any enemy aircraft come in and try and cluster bomb my forces as they move across the open water. Then we've got 2 LAV-25 FSVs. These are basically just small APCs with autocannons on them. Bushmaster autocannons, so pretty powerful autocannons. But they're good because they are fire support for the APCs. They can cover my troops as they cross the water as well. And they can obviously cross across water, so that's one use for them. Then I've got an AH-1J Cobra for recon. I've got an AH-1W Super Cobra for anti-air. This is good at taking down enemy aircraft and enemy helicopters due to its 2,800 meter range infrared missile. Then we've got 2 UH-1N Twin Hueys, and these Twin Hueys are carrying Stinger Cs. And if I can get these 2 Cobras across the water, the idea is to get the Twin Hueys across there as well and set up a couple of man-pad squads on this side of the water. I've dropped off a TACOM squad in Hotel, sending the Twin Huey to go help out the advance. I am also going to capture November with this LAV C2 for our team. And then over on the left, we have Fish moving up with his Lynx AH-1s. We've got Raptor pushing in the middle, and we have Spider pushing on the right side of these 3 sectors. So basically there is a contention here on the map. If we just pause it a sec, you can see that there is 3 sectors here: India, Echo and Bravo. And they are directly contested against Juliet, Delta and Charlie. Now, Juliet's the most contested sector because obviously they've also got Kilo to hold on to as well. So this is going to be the main point of contention throughout the game. But if we can press the advantage on the right here, then I'm going to be able to catch out the enemy very easily. So let's just continue for now, and you can see that my AH-1J Cobra hasn't spotted anything, and my Super Cobra is also flying around with that just to keep it covered in case. And seeing that there's nothing much on this side, I am going to land my Twin Hueys unopposed and get a couple of man-pad squads down. Now, over on this left side, I spot a KA-29. That is carrying Spetsnaz for sure, because generally people don't bring in KA-29s unless they are. And over on this right side here, there is also another Spetsnaz squad in this KA, which gets shot down by the two Lads Stinger C squads. Now, this is Spetsnaz VMF squad, just to make that clear, not an actual Spetsnaz squad. This Twin Huey gets a bit overambitious, and unfortunately does get shot down by the VMF squad, but it does reveal that that is definitely there. So I move my AH-1J Cobra over to the right. I've got these two Lads Stinger C squads in place, ready for my beach assault. You can see I've brought up my APCs, I've split them up, and the reason I've split them is to make them a harder target to hit by air. Now, when you're crossing across water with amphibious troops, the biggest mistake people make is keeping them close together. It's very easy to cluster bomb a group of APCs crossing water if they are cluttered together. So in this case, I make sure to spread them out individually so that that is not the case. And you can see that my chaparrals are joining the LVTPs in crossing the water and getting my troops across. Now I've brought up the Skyhawk Pick 3 to cover it from this side. Very long range radar missile AA there. The enemy continues to bring up some helicopters, and I managed to shoot down an Mi-24 there. And these Stinger C squads are already starting to pay off. So the LAV-25 FSVs, they actually have 50 km/h speed on water, which makes them very quick at crossing this area. You can see the rest of my forces are actually pretty slow. But one thing that this does remind me of a lot is, if any of you have played it, World in Conflict. And World in Conflict was an awesome game, and I remember a lot of the time in some of the maps you had to make use of marine forces. So the LVTPs came out quite a lot, and just seeing these LVTPs moving across the water like this is both awesome and very much nostalgic. I've already started to bring up some extra forces, another 2 LVTPs with small squads. We've got more infantry coming in by helicopters, which will basically reinforce the landing as they come across. We've got 2 Twin Hueys with another 2 Stinger C squads in them, and then we've got these 2 Twin Hueys with US Marines again. So Tunguska M reveals himself against my AH-1J Cobra. Fortunately, I managed to get the AH-1J Cobra out of there, and seeing that Tunguska in the tree line there, my LAV-25s are now rushing to go and take it out. So seeing it was driving to the right, I assumed that it would be heading that way. And you can see that as it's moving across here, it drives straight into my LAV-25s, and the Bushmaster cannons of that take it out very easily. And my Twin Hueys are basically moving across Oscar in order to scan it and get some recon information. But the miniguns on these Twin Hueys are actually pretty powerful, and I use it to shoot down one of the Mi-8Ts. So these LAV-25 FSVs have already paid themselves off by killing the Tunguska, and the Twin Hueys have also done a good job by taking out one of the Mi-8Ts. So now having the LVTPs crossing the water, you can see they're actually running out of fuel. Now this is something that is pretty funny, because this chaparral here has currently got 5 fuel left. 3, 2, 1. And my chaparral is stuck in the middle of the lake, which I found pretty amusing. This one's salvageable, still in water, but I can get a helicopter close enough to make sure that that gets its refuel. So now both my twin Hueys, worth 20 points each, managed to take out 2 25-point helicopters with their miniguns. But an Mi-24 VP comes in and spoils the day. I've got these 2 LAV 25 FSVs moving up into Oscar to try and spot the enemy's CV, but they also bump into that annoying Mi-24 and are therefore forced to hide in the forest, just as they are about to run out of fuel. Now I've managed to get these LVTPs up, and I'm now pushing forwards US Marines to try and screen through Oscar to find the enemy's command vehicle. And meanwhile, the LAV-25s with their accurate autocannons have managed to stun this Mi-24 VP. I bring up the twin Hueys to help out. At the road here, my LVTPs have bumped into this PT-85 and a T-62, and the US Marines managed to take out the tank while the LVTP deals with the PT-85. Thankfully at close range, the grenade launcher of the LVTP is enough to take out the PT-85, and therefore I get away with that just fine. After bringing up the CH-53, I am now able to refuel any of the stranded vehicles in the area. My UH-1N twin Huey manages to hit the ammo box of the Ka-29, but does get shot down with the help of an anti-aircraft missile. And with this M48A3 Chaparral being refueled, I can now move him back onto land, whereas this one is completely helpless. It's still an AA platform. If an enemy flies over it, it will still fire. It'll probably run out of missiles very quickly though if that were to happen. Over here I'm building up another force of units ready to push over together and land on the beach over here. And the reason I don't bring them over like unit by unit is because having units on the water makes them very vulnerable. I don't want to lose singular units by crossing them on their own. So I'm just trying to gain a foothold in Oscar. You can see my US Marine squads are still moving forwards in the sector. I've got a small squad moving over here, a US Marine squad, and I'm basically pushing them all across in a line just to try and find that bloody CV. Now fortunately for me, my small squad and my US Marine squad are getting very close. My US Marines though have bumped into ZSD 90s. Unfortunately for them, they don't manage to drop out the 2 Luzanduai squads that they had in those, so I actually managed to take care of them pretty easily with the US Marines. And my small squad comes across the command infantry of Pater Salad in Oscar, and we managed to neutralize the sector with the help of the US Marines. My small squad nearly dies because the small at this range cannot be fired effectively against infantry, and therefore their enemy command infantry squad nearly managed to kill one of my smalls. Luckily it didn't, and I've got this supply helicopter here ready to help out if needs be. So at the moment that's just flying around and resupplying stuff wherever it can. Over here I still have my LVTP-7A1 sitting on the corner because it's ran out of fuel. My Super Cobra manages to get a shot onto this Ka-29 at last, and we managed to take that out. But it looks at this point like I've got a very good foothold on the enemy's sector at Oscar. Now this ZSD comes along. Fortunately, the grenade launcher of my AH-1J Cobra does manage to stun the ZSD. Then I've got this Super Cobra forwards to help out with its M197 Vulcan autocannon. And now, as you can see, I've started to move all of the units across together. A new unit here, the V105 with a 90mm cannon on it. This is the closest to a tank that I'll get in this battle, as I rely a lot on infantry and a lot on APCs. Now, at this point, I thought I'd basically controlled Oscar. And I was right in a way. I did have overwhelming control on this side of the map. What I didn't expect is that the enemy would continuously reinforce from the top side of Oscar and not try and take me out from Lima. I was hoping that I would be able to push against Lima. But unfortunately, due to the way in which the landing occurred and the units I'd used, I was forced to push up against Oscar all the time rather than push left towards Lima. So a lot of my resources were sapped north rather than west. Now my US Marines have come across 3 Zan-Shi squads hiding in this forest, and with the help of this twin Huey and my AH-1J Cobra, makes that a very unfair fight because the grenade launchers of the AH-1J do a lot of damage against infantry squads. Now over on the right, you might have seen just a second ago one of my prowlers come in and take out a PGZ that was on the right side. Now you can avoid those getting taken out if you do turn off their radar cannons, but didn't look like the guy knew how to do that. Now I'll just demonstrate it actually with the Hawk Pip 3. Now see at the bottom of the screen there is the loadout of the vehicle. In this case we've got the Pip 3, and underneath it says radar. If you turn off the radar by clicking on it, I can't do it in a replay because it's obviously a replay, but if you click on it, it turns off the weapon loadout, and then seed missiles from aircraft can't actually target them while it's off, and once they've flown past, you can turn them back on again and the missile will fire. And that way you can actually take out seed aircraft quite effectively. The trouble is at the moment is that seed aircraft are both fast and they are very accurate. So if you're not quick enough, you're gonna lose your AA. And that's pretty much what happened on the right. Now the Prowler's not a very fast seed aircraft, but it is pretty invisible, so you're gonna spot it pretty late, and I don't blame people for getting called out by seed missiles, because honestly a lot of the time I do as well. But it's just a tip, you know, make sure you turn off your radar AA if any seed missiles are coming in. Now, I am continuously reinforcing on this right side because up here you may have seen the skirmish between the WZ-551s, which I managed to destroy both of with the US Marines, but they were dropping off Lijuan squads, and those Lijuan squads are going to be slowly coming down through Oscar. Now if I go to the neutral perspective, you can see they are both here, and they are being resupplied by cargoes to make them much better squads. Now I'm also reinforcing myself at the bottom of the screen here. You can see these US Marines being dropped off by the twin Hueys. I've also brought in my own TACOM squad now to neutralise Oscar. Since they've been reinforcing from the top of Oscar, they've managed to bring in another command vehicle. and therefore I need to neutralize it by using a command vehicle of my own so that they don't get the extra resources. Now I've got my Super Cobra come up and trying to take out this Mi-24 VP. My second Super Cobra manages to get the hit as the first one retreats. Now I've got an Intruder coming, and that's trying to bomb any infantry that was hiding in this tree line here, dropped off by this Mi-8 TV. But it turns out it was these two VDV-90 squads, and with the help of these AH-1J Cobra and the twin Hueys, the US Marines managed to clear those out pretty quickly. And now I've got my Prowler here with this Intruder, and they're just flying about and trying to pick up kills here and there. So I saw that they were using radar AA earlier, so I assumed they would bring in more, but they hadn't, so the Prowlers didn't get any kills. Now on the right I used my twin Hueys to get another kill. It's pretty important with this deck in particular to make sure that you use all of your units as well as you can. So in this case you can see that I'm pushing forward these twin Hueys to take out this Mi-8 TV because the Mi-8 TV is trying to kill my US Marines. Now the enemy brings in an Su-27PU, and this is a big issue for me throughout the game. With this particular deck, I don't actually have any decent air superiority fighters, and I'm relying a lot on manpad squads. Now manpad squads are very good if they're in an area which has a lot of line of sight, but where they're stuck in these sort of forests, if a plane flies right over them, often they won't be able to get a shot off. In this case, both my lads Stinger C squads do here. The SU has a really nice ECM value of 50%. It's unlikely that these Stinger C squads are actually going to hit very well. Now, it's pretty important that I get these Stinger squads into positions where they can see clearly, so that's why I'm moving them up to the top of these cliffs. But unfortunately, if you look from a different angle, you can see they're very rigid rocks that from different angles, it's very easy to basically have a unit in a place that has zero line of sight on anything that flies past. Now this Stinger squad on the top here is in a pretty good place, but the second one down here not so much, because if a aircraft is flying around from the direction I'm facing, they cannot fire at it until it gets to about here, in which case it's only going to get one missile off, and that's totally not worth it. Now on this right side I lose a couple of helicopters to a couple of enemy Igla squads and these Strezets. The Strezets have 23mm auto cannons and quad PKTs, which are decent against taking down aircraft from range, but basically those stun them while the Igla ends take them out. And in this case I lost an AH-1J Cobra, 2 Super Cobras and 2 twin Hueys. I really should have avoided this, but unfortunately the enemy just caught me out. So now the enemy is moving forwards. These LAV-25s are very powerful though. You can see this one here is doing a lot of damage to the motor Strelky before they can get in range. The Bushmaster autocannon, 25mm autocannon, is extremely powerful. Has a HE power of 1 like all autocannons, but it's just nice and accurate. It moves quickly and has a really good rate of fire. So now I've got these 2 LVTP-7A1s pushing up with a couple of extra small squads. Seeing the units moving around on the right side of the map, I need something to cover that side, so I'm moving forwards this AH-1J Cobra, and I have brought back a couple of US Marine squads to try and take out that unit. Well, this LAV-25 has come up against this Motor Strelky 90 squad, And if it wasn't stunned by the Liege 1, probably would have killed it. But the Liege 1 with their napalm launchers do manage to catch out that APC. And I'm forced to push my US Marines back in the opposite direction to try and take those squads out. So these LVTPs have moved up on the right here, and they're just going to defend this road against any fast moving vehicles. My US Marines have now moved up though, and I've managed to take out the Strezet and one of the infantry squads there, which has allowed my AH-1J to come a bit further forwards. I've now got my V105 90mm to come up and help support my US Marines with a couple of extra LAB-25 FSVs. I've now got even more reinforcing US Marine 90s due to the large infantry skirmishes that are occurring. And for some reason, Pater Salad is using this T62 OBR to fire position onto this tree line, which was a bit strange because I don't think he had any reason to. But here you can see my Prowler come in, and it manages to destroy another PGZ. But Pater Salad is on the ball with his Su-27PU and manages to shoot that down. Now, continuously, over on the right here, I brought in a couple of Intruders. And these are basically the same as Prowlers, just with a different loadout. And unfortunately, they both get shot down. Now that was a huge loss to me. I lost my AH-1J Cobra and both of the Intruders that I'd brought in. And I brought them out wide to avoid AA. But just because of Pater Salad's timing with that Su-27, he caught me completely off guard. And it lost me a ton of points for our team, unfortunately. But at this time in the game, we are 4,040 points to the enemy's 3,400. You can see again, Pater Salad's Su-27 is now having a dogfight with my Prowler. It can't quite get on its tail. Because the Su-27 goes faster than the Prowler, it's actually having trouble getting shots off. Pater Salad's SU, unfortunately, doesn't manage to shoot down my Prowler before it escapes. And that was probably one of the most epic dogfights I've ever seen. And the Prowler doing really well there with its high ECM in order to avoid the shots of the enemy. I've brought up my LVTP-7A1s with the grenade launchers to try and take out these Liege 1 squads a bit easier. But the US Marines are suffering quite heavily from the napalm launchers of the Liege 1, and the small squad and the LVTP are like constantly stunned due to their missiles. Now I try and bring up the LAVs on the right as well, but because they are in range of this T62, they get taken out as well. Now I was hoping that I would be able to use the LVTPs to use the grenade launchers on these Liege 1, but because the napalm launchers are so powerful, they just basically annihilate my troops. And luckily there I got a few shots off with the LVTP, and my V105 with the 90mm cannon manages to help with a shot as well. So that takes out those two Liege 1 squads on the right, and I've managed to get a couple of twin Hueys a bit further up here with two US Marine squads and drop them off into the middle of Oscar. Got another US Marine squad moving up on the left side of Oscar. Now something I have to really talk about is my lack of recon throughout this game. It's something that I've noticed through the last couple of my replays that I put on the channel. My use of recon is actually abysmal at the moment, and in this deck it was mainly due to the fact that I thought that one of my units wasn't amphibious when it actually was. And it's just something that I want to talk about because I have 8 units of Navy SEALs on my deck in V105s. Now, they can cross water, the V105s, but Navy SEALs obviously don't have an amphibious value. So when I was hovering over the unit card, I was assuming that the unit wasn't amphibious when it actually was, because I was looking at the infantry card, not the vehicle card that they come in, if that makes sense. And therefore, it caught me out. And I should have had US Marines at this point to cover the land across Oscar and make it a lot easier for me to clear out the north side of it. But because I didn't take advantage of that throughout the game, it made it a lot harder than it had to be. Now the enemy takes pot shots with some artillery shells, and I'm forced to move my TACOM squad. It was a bit strange how he sort of knew that was there, but there wasn't any recon in the area, so I guess it was just a really good guess, which caught me out. I'm also forced to move my Lad Stinger squad up to the mountain to join the other 4 that are already on the peaks. That is another thing that kind of annoyed me throughout this game. You saw that Su-27 flying over Oscar the entire time, yet none of my Lad Stingers actually fired at it, which is something that was really strange. Now, meanwhile on the left, there is a huge battle going on. The entire time I've been pressing on the right, Raptor, Fish and Spider have been working tirelessly together in order to destroy the enemy, basically. And you can see all of these craters. Look at them. The battle is covered with craters. And they're just trying to make a huge push at the moment. These AMX-30B2 Brennises are pushing up ahead of everything else to try and get the auto cannon shots onto this Mi-8T. It's got 2 AMX-30B2s pushing into this forest, followed by 2 Leopard 2s. Meanwhile on the right, I'm taking a bit of fire due to the Strela 10M that's posted in Lima. And that managed to shoot down 2 of my twin Hueys. Luckily they don't have anything in them. They were just sent that way to scout. But the push continues on the left. The AMX-32 Brennis is now being rocket artillered. And Su-25K coming in with a bombing strike. Fortunately misses the majority of its bombs, but Raptor and Spider are basically locked down in this position now. And he is being slowly destroyed. I think really what happened on this left side was they went a bit too far. They got the advantage and they bit off a bit more than they could chew. And you can see that it's feeding a lot of points to the enemy. With these 2 F4Fs dying, they put the enemies now almost equal in points with us. Are 5,025 to the enemy's 5,200, and we only have 40 seconds left on the clock. So I'm pretty much static on the right, trying not to lose any forces unnecessarily. I brought in a Prowler just to see if he could get a couple of seed kills, but due to the fact that it is so close to the end of the game, I think Raptor and Spider were getting a bit impatient and really wanted to take the enemy out of Juliet. But unfortunately didn't quite work out for us, and we lost a lot more points than we should have when we were in such a commanding lead. Either way, I don't necessarily blame them for a bad game, because it was an extremely fun game for me. First time in which I've actually had a successful deck that pushed across water. Good successful amphibious deck. But either way, there we go, 30-minute game. That was on a timer, and it ended with a draw. So, 5,320 kills to us, 5,241 to the enemy. Now, unfortunately they didn't do too well, Raptor and Spider. Raptor went 980 kills to 1,245 losses, and Spider went 1,210 kills to 1,820 losses. But I believe this was Raptor's first multiplayer game in quite a while, so I forgive him for that. But Fish did well, 1,615 kills to 1,135 losses, and I got 1,515 kills to 1,145. A lot of those deaths actually coming from the 3 aircraft that I lost in one pass, my Prowler and 2 Intruders and an AH-1J Cobra, all to an Su-27. That was just disgusting. Either way, a really fun game, shows the feasibility of amphibious craft in this game, but I think the reason I really got away with it was because the enemy didn't recon the side in which I attacked, and they only placed a command infantry squad in that sector at the beginning of the game. I don't think they expected at all that anyone would push across there so quickly, which is why I managed to catch them out. So not something that may be feasible against better players, but I still think that this was a very interesting game, and they reacted to it very well with the troops that they did, the Lijuan and the light tanks. I think that was a good way to try and counter the push, but I think I already had too much of a grasp on Oscar for them to really do anything about it. But they still managed to contest the sector enough to make it difficult for me, and to stop me from pushing towards Lima on the left side of me, which is something that I planned to do after I took Oscar. But because they attacked me from the top of Oscar rather than from Lima, it actually made it harder to take Lima for me, because I had to put so many resources up towards defending the top of Oscar. Anyway, really hope you enjoyed this game. I found this one really fun. It was really nice to use sort of an experimental deck that somebody had suggested in the comments and actually do really well with it. So I'm really glad, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. So thanks for watching. Make sure you go check out Raptor on his channel, ICBM Raptor 2. I'll leave the link in the description. He has a live commentary of this game himself on his channel, so go check it out. But in the meantime, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.